In 1964, a 26-year-old track coach from Oregon named Phil Knight was selling shoes out of the trunk of his car at track meets. Not a store, not a website, not a warehouse. The trunk of his car. He would drive to a track meet, open the boot, and sell Japanese running shoes to athletes who had never heard of the brand he was representing. His entire business was a handshake agreement with a Japanese shoe company called Onitsuka Tiger, a suitcase of samples, and a folding table he set up beside the track. In his first year, he sold $8,000 worth of shoes. He thought that was extraordinary. Nobody standing at that folding table buying cheap Japanese running shoes knew they were watching the beginning of something that would one day become the most recognizable sports brand on earth. Nobody knew that the man behind that folding table would one day be worth over $40 billion. Nobody knew that the company he was building, slowly, desperately, almost accidentally, would one day make Adidas, the undisputed king of athletic footwear for decades, look like it was playing catch-up. This is that story. Today, Nike is worth approximately $110 billion. It controls roughly 27% of the entire global athletic footwear market. Its swoosh logo is one of the three most recognized symbols on Earth, alongside the McDonald's arches and the Apple. Nike spends approximately $3.6 billion every single year on marketing alone. It sponsors athletes in virtually every major sport on every continent. The Jordan brand, a subsidiary of Nike built entirely around one man, generates over $5 billion in revenue annually on its own. And Adidas, the company that was the undisputed global leader in athletic footwear when Phil Knight was selling shoes from his car trunk in 1964, has spent the last 4 decades trying to close a gap that keeps getting wider. How did this happen? The answer is not better shoes. The answer is not better marketing. The answer is not even better business strategy in the traditional sense. The answer is one psychological insight that Nike understood and Adidas didn't. One idea about how human beings actually make decisions about what they wear, what they buy, and who they want to be. And it all starts with a man who just really loved running. Philip Hampson Knight grew up in Portland, Oregon, the son of a newspaper publisher. He was a good but not exceptional middle-distance runner at the University of Oregon. Good enough to run under coach Bill Bowerman, one of the most innovative track coaches in American history, a man who was obsessed with making athletes faster and spent his spare time literally taking apart shoes to figure out how to improve them. Knight graduated, went to Stanford Business School, and wrote a paper for a class that would later be called Prophetic. The paper argued that the Japanese shoe industry could do to the German shoe industry what Japanese cameras had done to German cameras: undercut them on price, match them on quality, and eventually dominate the market entirely. At the time, Adidas and Puma, both German companies, both founded by brothers from the same family who famously hated each other, owned the athletic footwear world. Every serious athlete wore German shoes. The idea that anyone could challenge them seemed almost laughable. Knight didn't think it was laughable. After Stanford, he flew to Japan. He walked into the offices of Onitsuka Tiger, a Japanese athletic shoe manufacturer, and told them he represented a company called Blue Ribbon Sports from Oregon that wanted to distribute their shoes in America. Blue Ribbon Sports did not exist. Knight invented it on the spot in the Onitsuka Tiger boardroom because he didn't want to admit he was a 24-year-old nobody with no company and no money who had flown to Japan on a hunch. Onitsuka Tiger gave him a deal anyway. Knight flew home, called his old coach Bill Bowerman, and asked if he wanted to go halves on a $500 investment to import Japanese shoes. Bowerman said yes. Blue Ribbon Sports was officially born. 2 men, $500, and a prayer that American athletes would buy Japanese running shoes if someone just showed them how good they were. For the next several years, Knight worked full-time as an accountant and sold shoes on the side. He hired his first employee, Jeff Johnson, a fellow running enthusiast who became so passionate about the brand that he suggested they rename it after the Greek goddess of victory, Nike. To understand why Nike winning was such an upset, you need to understand what Adidas was in the 1960s and 70s. Adidas was not just a shoe company. Adidas was what athletic footwear meant. Every Olympic athlete wore them. Every football team wore them. Every serious runner, every basketball player, every footballer on earth associated professional athletic performance with Adidas. The 3 stripes were not a logo. They were a signal. Wearing Adidas meant you were serious. Wearing anything else meant you were not. Adidas was founded by Adi Dassler, a German cobbler who had been making athletic shoes since the 1920s and who personally fitted Jesse Owens with Adidas spikes for the 1936 Berlin Olympics. Jesse Owens won 4 gold medals in front of Adolf Hitler, wearing Adidas shoes. If you wanted a more powerful brand moment than that, it was difficult to imagine one. By the time Phil Knight was selling Onitsuka Tigers from his car boot in 1964, Adidas had been the undisputed king of athletic footwear for nearly 40 years. They had the athletes, they had the prestige, they had the relationships, they had the distribution. They had everything. Nike had a folding table and some Japanese shoes. So how did the folding table win? Here is the insight. The one thing that separated Nike from every other company trying to compete with Adidas. Adidas sold shoes. Nike sold identity. That sounds simple. It is not simple. It is the most important idea in the history of consumer marketing, and almost nobody understood it before Nike built an empire on it. Here's what Adidas believed. Adidas believed that athletes bought shoes because the shoes were good, because they were well-made, well-designed, technically superior, tested at the highest levels of competition. Adidas believed that performance was the product. They were right, and it cost them everything. Because here is what Nike understood. Nike understood that people, athletes and non-athletes alike, do not primarily buy shoes for performance. They buy shoes to feel something, to feel like a winner, to feel fast, to feel like they belong to something, to feel like they are the kind of person who could be great. People do not buy shoes. They buy the version of themselves they imagine when they put those shoes on. And the most powerful way to sell that feeling, the single most effective mechanism ever discovered for making a person believe that wearing a shoe will transform who they are, is to attach that shoe to a person they already admire, already want to be like, already believe is great. Not a team, not a sport, not a concept. A specific human being whose greatness they can see and feel and aspire to. This is where the psychology could work. Nike needed a product worth believing in. Bill Bowerman, Nike's co-founder and the obsessive shoe-tinkering track coach from Oregon, had never stopped trying to make a better running shoe. He experimented constantly, pulling apart competitors' shoes, rebuilding them, testing them on his athletes, throwing away what didn't work and starting again. In 1971, he poured liquid urethane into his wife's waffle iron. He was trying to create a sole with better traction, a surface that would grip the track without adding weight. The waffle pattern his wife's iron created turned out to be exactly what he was looking for. The Nike Waffle Trainer, built on a sole inspired by a breakfast appliance, became one of the most important shoes in running history. It was genuinely technically better, lighter, more grippy, more responsive than anything Adidas was making at the time. So now Nike had two things: a product that was actually superior and an understanding of human psychology that their competitors didn't have. They just needed the person to attach it all to. In 1984, Nike was in trouble. The running boom of the 1970s had faded. Nike had bet heavily on running shoes, and the market had shifted toward other sports. Revenue was falling. The company had just laid off staff for the first time. Nike's basketball shoe division was almost non-existent. They had a tiny share of a market completely dominated by Converse and Adidas. Then someone at Nike suggested they sign a 21-year-old rookie from North Carolina named Michael Jordan. Nike's basketball division had $100,000 a year to spend on athlete endorsements. The Jordan deal they were proposing would cost $500,000 a year for 5 years, 5 times their entire budget. It was an insane amount of money to spend on a player who had not yet played a single game in the NBA. There was another problem. Michael Jordan did not want to sign with Nike. Jordan wore Adidas. He loved Adidas. He had grown up in Adidas. He wanted Adidas to sign him to a deal, and they had every opportunity to do so. Adidas passed. The numbers didn't make sense to them. The risk didn't make sense. The logic of spending that much money on a single unproven rookie player didn't fit their model. Adidas believed in the shoe. They did not yet understand that the player was the shoe. Converse also had a chance. They signed Larry Bird and Magic Johnson instead, the established superstars everyone already knew. Safe, rational, logical choices. Nike flew Jordan and his parents to Oregon. They built a presentation designed specifically for him. A shoe line built entirely around him personally. His name on it, his identity wrapped into every design decision. They called it Air Jordan. Jordan's mother told him he should at least listen to what Nike had to say. He went. He sat through the presentation, and he signed. The Air Jordan 1 launched in 1985. It was immediately banned by the NBA because it didn't comply with the league's uniform color rules. It was mostly red and black, when the rules required shoes to be mostly white. The NBA fined Jordan $5,000 every single game he wore them. Nike paid the fine. Every game. And then they ran advertisements about it. The ad campaign made the banned shoe the most desirable object in American sports culture. You could not have designed a better marketing moment. The establishment telling Michael Jordan he couldn't wear his shoe, and Jordan wearing it anyway, game after game, fine after fine, while Nike paid the bill and put it in the commercial. In its first year, the Air Jordan line generated $126 million in revenue. Nike had projected $3 million. But Nike's story is not a straight line from car trunk to empire. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Nike stumbled badly. They had been so focused on basketball and the Jordan phenomenon that they had missed the aerobics craze, a massive movement of women exercising that was creating an enormous new market for athletic footwear. Reebok saw it, moved fast, and by 1987 had actually overtaken Nike as the largest athletic shoe company in America. Nike, the company that had dethroned Adidas, was now being dethroned by Reebok. The response from Phil Knight was to double down on the psychological insight that had built the company in the first place. Not better shoes, better identity. In 1988, Nike launched the most famous advertising campaign in sports history. Just do it. 3 words. No product description, no technical specification, no rational argument for why Nike shoes were better than Reebok shoes. Just an instruction. an identity, a call to action that told the wearer exactly who they were or who they could be if they chose to act. Just Do It worked because it was not about shoes at all. It was about the person wearing them. It told every human being who saw it that greatness was a choice, available to anyone, and Nike was the brand of people who made that choice. Reebok had better aerobic shoes. Nike gave people a reason to care who they were. Just Do It, combined with the Jordan effect, rebuilt Nike's dominance through the late 1980s and 1990s faster than anyone had thought possible. Jordan won his first championship in 1991, his second in 1992, his third in 1993. Retired, came back, won 3 more. 6 championships, 6 finals MVP awards, the most decorated player of his generation, wearing Nike on his feet for every single one of them. Every kid who watched Michael Jordan play basketball wanted to be Michael Jordan. And every kid who wanted to be Michael Jordan knew exactly what shoes Michael Jordan wore. Nike's revenue went from $877 million in 1988 to $9.2 billion in 1997, in 9 years. During a period when Adidas was struggling to stay relevant and Reebok had already peaked and was declining.